You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It's takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, it's Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? You know, I miss you when we're not talking. Now, I know, first of all, it's Columbus Day if you're so inclined. Personally, I call it Columbus Day. I'm not getting into that whole debate. If you want to engage in that, you can catch me on Twitter, Jessie's POV. You can email me at the station, jessiespov@klrnradio.com. But I'm not alone. I'm not alone. But before I introduce my wonderful guest, I do want to put out the warning alert that we will be ending the show on taps tonight. There were 4 fallen Special Forces service members over last week, and as the releases came on Thursday, and I don't do this show on Friday, they were held over until today. Now, I found what I think is probably the only one of its kind. I found a gun writer from the Herald Tribune, Lee Williams. How you doing tonight, Lee?
Good, Jessie. How are you? It's an honor to be here.
Well, I thank you. Now, you were telling me that your newspaper even helps you run your website.
Yeah, I'm an editor at the Herald Tribune, which is the daily newspaper in Sarasota, Florida. I'm also, I write about guns for the newspaper. As far as I know, I'm the only journalist and member of the mainstream media that has a pro-gun website and accompanying social media fully sponsored by his newspaper.
I happen to think that is amazing. Now, before we get into too far into the weeds here, I do want to remind everybody that there's 2 ways you can interact with me live during the show. I am over in the chat room at klrnradio.com/chat, or you can tag me in a tweet. Sorry, folks, I don't check my email during the show. I got enough going on. But if you want to get in touch with any of my guests or me, you can always email me. And Lee, of course, will be giving out all his social media information at the end of the show. All right. Now, firearms are in the news again. And the fact that they are is, I think, of little surprise. Am I right, or am I missing something?
No, I completely agree. It's not a surprise whenever there's one of these horrible massacres. People will focus on the inanimate object rather than the evildoer who was behind the trigger. Let's blame the device. Let's blame the gun. Let's not blame the individual. And that's what they're doing in this instance, this horrible massacre from this madman with the bump stock.
Right. Now, I tend to talk a lot of military type things and international affairs on this show, which is why I choose at the end of any episode where we've had a casualty with official notification put out by the Department of Defense, I choose to end on taps. So what I wanted to know was civilians such as myself, I am a concealed carry permit holder. I'm going to go out here on what I'm guessing is a very thick, sturdy limb and suspect that you are as well.
Yeah, I served in the Army. I was a police officer for 10 years before I became a reporter. I was trained by the NRA as a law enforcement firearms instructor. I'm a training junkie. I train constantly, and I am extremely cognizant of my personal security when it comes to firearms.
Well, thank you. And to me, that's the mark of a responsible firearms owner.
Well, I like to think so. Thank you.
I mean, personally, I don't have your background. I was taught to shoot originally taught by my cousin, and then the training was reinforced by my first husband, whose casket flag I am the proud custodian of. However,
I'm so sorry for your loss.
It's okay. Being married to him is part of what inspired me to start this show and made me who I am today.
Touching.
And I married him after he was already in the military and a part of Special Forces. And to ask my first husband to change anything would have been asking him to change part of what I loved about him. It wouldn't have been right or fair.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite know what I was getting into, but he prepared me as best he could.
It's a lifestyle for the spouse as well as the soldier.
It is. It truly is. Anyway, I do go to the range once a month, and I practice with the different holsters that I carry, and I make sure that I am comfortable with whatever firearm I am carrying. And if I am not completely comfortable with it, it stays at home in the lockbox until I am. Or if it's my husband picked it out, it's his preferred one, but I'm just not all that comfortable with it, I may shoot it at the range. But I'm not going to carry it.
Right. Well, that's a good practice. That's a great habit to get into. I own a lot of firearms, but my personal security is entrusted to about 3 of them.
I have
firearm. Go ahead.
I have one that I prefer above all others. And, that's the one I most frequently carry.
Well, they always say, beware the person with only one gun, because odds are pretty good they can use it rather well. So that's a good practice.
Now, firearms aren't just common in civilian society. But when our men and women in the armed forces go overseas, they have firearms. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole debate, should they be allowed to carry on military bases? That's a plunge that would take us so far off track. I don't want to bring that one up today. But when they do have those firearms, that they're at the range here stateside, or they are overseas on a deployed assignment, what's the difference between the M4 that the soldier carries and, say, the AR-15 you can pick up at your local gun store?
Well, the major difference is the M4 is select fire. It can be turned from safe to semi to full automatic or 3-round burst, what have you. It's a fully automatic firearm. It is a machine gun. There's also a lot of difference in the reliability. The M4s that the military carries and uses are made a lot better. There's a lot of junk out there right now. I'm talking $300 or $400 or $500 M4s or ARs that I wouldn't trust my life to under any circumstances. There's also a lot more attachments that a military firearm will have. They'll have an infrared laser, which most civilians can't get access to. Some will have an M203 grenade launcher mounted underneath the barrel. A lot of the special operations guys will mount cans or suppressors or silencers, whatever you prefer, on the end of the barrel. Some will have shorter barrels made, which they believe makes CQB, close quarters battle, or room clearing easier. There's a world of difference between a military firearm and what civilians are buying off the shelf. Excuse me. That's not to say that a civilian cannot get a fully automatic weapon or a machine gun. Florida is one of 37 states, that's where I live, that allows civilians to own machine guns. However, there's a process that people have to go through. They have to get approval and a background check by the ATF. But for the most part, civilian ARs or M4s are semi-auto, and military equivalents have a select fire. So that's the biggest difference.
Okay. Now, I do know that both, well, not all A4s, but quite a few of them, first of all, AR does not stand for assault rifle, does it?
No, it stands for Armalite Rifle, which was the original designation when it came out in the 60s. Not assault rifle. Armalite Rifle, the originals were made by Armalite.
Is there really a definition for an assault rifle?
Yeah, there is. It's completely and constantly being misused by the media. A military M4 or a military AK-74 or 47 meets the classic definition of an assault rifle. It is a gun that is select fire, machine gun. And it also uses an intermediate style cartridge. In the case of the AK, they took the 7.62 by 54 Russian round and they necked it down to make 7.62 by 39. In the case of the AR, it's a smaller intermediate size round. It's not a full-blown, full-power rifle cartridge like you would find in an M1 Garand or a Springfield. It's a medium-sized round. It's fully automatic. That is the definition of assault rifle. An assault rifle is not the civilian versions, the semi-automatic versions of the AK platform or the AR platform. That's a misnomer. That's incorrect. That's being used wrong by the media and by a lot of politicians who think they know a little bit of this and that about guns.
Okay, now you've thrown a whole lot of jargon at a whole lot of people. And while
Welcome to my world.
I know I've got some really good gun people that listen to this show that followed every word you said.
Okay.
All right. So the rifles, essentially, that the men and women of our military carry into combat meet the definition that is written for assault rifle.
Yes, they are machine guns. They are capable of full automatic fire.
Okay. Now, you said you own some of these fully automatic capable firearms.
No. I have semi-automatic versions.
Okay. You have semi-automatic.
Civilian legal. Yeah.
Okay.
Truth be known, Jess, I'm not a big proponent of fully automatic fire, even in the military. I think if you look at your more elite units, like your special operations guys, they're never going to flip. They're never going to flip over to fully automatic.
I've seen it twice. And would you like to know where I know of it happening?
Sure.
They were at the range and had to burn off extra ammo.
Okay, that doesn't count.
And they wanted to get out of there in time for dinner. And they're the only two times I ever heard of them flipping to full. Otherwise, they want to do slow, controlled, pointed, well-placed shots. They don't want to spray and pray. Spray bullets everywhere and hope they hit their target. That's not them.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, but like I said, those are the only two occasions. They were either in a hurry to finish up with their leftover spare ammunition that they were told to burn off and didn't want to hang out there all day. And they were trying to finish up what they were doing and get on to either the next task or to food. And do you have any idea how much these guys eat?
Yeah, trust me, machine gun shooting fully automatic is fun. I get invited to a lot of machine gun shoots. It's fun as long as somebody else is paying for the ammunition.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's one of those things, I'm sure it's fun as a once or twice, say, been there, done that.
Yeah.
But, okay, so how many hoops did you have to jump through to get the semi-automatic versions? Now, semi-automatic is each pull of the trigger is one bullet, correct?
Right. No real hoops. You go to the gun store, you tell them what you want, you pay your money, they take your name, you fill out a form with the ATF. Depending on what state you're in, you can either buy it if it's a rifle, you can get it that day, or you'll have a 2 or 3 day waiting period. It's not at all an arduous process like it would be to buy a fully automatic machine gun. It's just like buying a shotgun or a handgun in most states. Not a big deal.
Okay. Now, there are people that obviously civilians that own these fully automatic machine guns.
Right.
But I'm under the impression, and I've never looked into owning one, you have to be a federally licensed, have your federal licensed firearm certificate to do that.
No, you do not. That's
okay.
A misnomer. In the states that allow them, it's pretty much an easy process, although it is expensive and time consuming. You go to a gun dealer that can sell machine guns, you find what you like, you purchase the firearm, you pay a $200 transfer tax to the ATF. They give you a tax stamp, which is actually a stamp. You fill out a Form 1 that goes to the ATF, and then you wait. You wait about 6 months to a year for the ATF to approve it. At that point, the gun dealer calls you and says, Jesse, come on down and pick up your machine gun. Now, the one thing you need to know if you're going to buy a machine gun, there are only about 180,000 machine guns in the entire country that are eligible for civilian ownership. Basically, it has to be a machine gun that was made before 1986. Don't ask me why. It doesn't make any sense. So there's a very finite number of guns that are out there, and it's creating this artificial economy. Well, like anything, if there were only 180,000 homes available in the United States, what do you think the price would be on the average home? Well, what you end up seeing is you've got these machine guns that the civilian semi-automatic versions run about $800 or $900. They're going for, I don't know, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. If you would have purchased a fully automatic Colt M16 in 1985, today it would be your kid's college education. They're just incredibly expensive. So that's why a lot of folks aren't buying machine guns. It's not that they don't mind the hassle. It's not that they mind the hassle and the waiting time. They're just a hell of a lot of money.
Hey.
Say again?
I was just going to say, hey, I guess it's like anything else. If you really want to sink that much money into it, you can get it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an investment. A lot of these machine guns that are getting purchased are never getting fired. It's an investment grade firearm.
Now, what about, I live on a U.S. military base, and that's not something I keep secret. Which one is my business and no one else's? But when I go through that gate every day, multiple times a day sometimes, I see a uniformed soldier at the gate, and he has a 9mm sidearm. What is the difference between his 9mm, and I believe it's a Beretta, versus a 9mm Beretta I could walk into a store and purchase?
About the only major difference is his M9 is stamped U.S. government property. I carried the M9 or the Beretta 92 for 10 years when I was a policeman. It's a good gun for what it is. I think there's a lot better out there, but arguably it's just the same as any 9 that you're going to buy as a civilian.
Okay, so
it's not a bad pistol.
No, they're not. I have handled a number of them. Some of them that were stamped property of the U.S. government and some that weren't. And personally, I never noticed a difference. But I just wanted to mention that, the military has the true assault rifles. An AR-15 you go to a gun store and purchase for anywhere from $300 to, we'll say, $2,000 is not going to be a, quote, assault rifle according to the normal gun definition. Now, of course, the media will call it an assault rifle.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that being said, what are for someone who maybe they have a firearm, let's say they inherit a firearm, better yet, their Uncle Fred passed away and there were several firearms and nobody in the family particularly knows what they are, what they're doing. There isn't that other gun person in the family. What do they do?
Okay.
What would you tell them to do? Because obviously you don't want someone in that situation being taken advantage of. You don't necessarily want the firearms loose on the street either. So how should someone in that situation handle it?
I get this a lot, and I have several dealers around the Sarasota area that I recommend people go and take their firearms to for an appraisal and for a safety check if they want to shoot them. And then I have instructors that I know that will take them out to the range and show them how to use them. And a lot of this stuff is free. I don't know anybody that's paying for an appraisal. Or if you go to a gunsmith and you want the gun gone over, yeah, they'll probably charge you anywhere between $20 and $50. But if it's an old gun, a dusty gun, grandpa's gun, and you want to shoot it, you need to get that stuff checked out by a gunsmith because there's a lot that can go wrong with a firearm. You got to realize that a firearm, when it discharges, there's a little bit of an explosion going off, usually right next to your head. And you want to make sure that the metal on that is strong and that there's nothing mechanically wrong with the firearm, so there aren't any issues.
All right.
Now, truth be known, go ahead.
Now, what if they're not in the Sarasota area? What would you recommend?
I would contact my state affiliate of the National Rifle Association. Every state has one. In Florida, it's the Unified Sportsman. And I would try and talk to some of them, and maybe they can recommend a good gunsmith or a good appraiser that people can go to. You're going to have to do a little internet research. And these days, everybody who's got a business is being rated by Yelp and by their customers. Find somebody in that state, usually through the NRA affiliate, and they'll help you find somebody you can trust. Now, if you're going to take it to an appraiser, the last thing you want to do is tell that appraiser that you want to sell them, because there's a pretty good chance that you could get lowballed on the price.
So just tell them you need an appraisal, period.
Right, period.
Maybe for insurance purposes or something else.
Exactly. And if you want to shoot the gun, take it to a gunsmith. If you don't know what you're doing, contact a firearms instructor and he will help you out. I've been contacted a lot. I've never encountered a firearm that I didn't know how to operate. So it's best to get those into an expert's hands, especially if you're going to shoot them.
Now, the reason I ask that question is I had that situation, but I, of course, was not surprised when my own mother passed away. There was an old .22 revolver that had been improperly stored. The ammo in it and the ammo, I had to use a soda straw to push the ammo out of the revolver because it had gone green and was so corroded.
Oh, yeah. Yuck.
Yuck was the right word for that. So what I did once I got the firearm rendered safe, I disposed of the ammunition without firing it. I dropped it. They have amnesty boxes on military bases. If you accidentally walk away from the range with a round, you can drop them in. So I disposed of the ammo in one of the amnesty boxes. And then took the firearms straight to a reputable local firearms dealer I trusted and said, clean this thing up. That's all I said, was clean this thing up. Now, I didn't go for the formal appraisal because I knew pretty well what this was worth with just a few clicks of a mouse, because it wasn't a rare or obscure or old thing, particularly old. It's from the 70s. And after shooting it a couple times, I realized it wasn't the firearm for me, so I sold it.
Good for you. Good for you.
Now, I sold it through a dealer, so there was no chance of it falling into, I didn't put an ad on Craigslist.
Yeah, that's a real no-go right there.
All right, well, we have hit the bottom of the hour, and I'm just going to remind everybody out there that if you want to ask a question, you could have a question for my gun expert. You could tag me in a tweet or at Jesse's POV, or join me in the chat room at klrnradio.com. And we are going to take that wonderful thing called a commercial break, and we will be back on the other side.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
All right, thank y'all for hanging in there with me while we paid those radio station bills. Yes, and Lee, my favorite guest this month. Sorry, Justin, you haven't been on with me in October yet. He's a regular guest I have on. He's getting his PhD in terrorism. Is still with us, and we actually have a question in the chat room. Before we get to bump stocks, yes, we are coming up on the bump stocks. Ron in the chat room says he has a rifle that uses a magazine. Thank you, Ron. Clips belong on hair, paper, and ties. Is it wise to load magazines ahead of their usage?
Depending on the magazine, I hate to kind of take the easy way out, and depending on how long you're going to store them. Before I go to the range, I like to load all my magazines. And believe me, I have a lot of them for my rifles and for my pistols. That just saves me time at the range. My range time is precious. I don't spend enough time there, and even though I'm shooting weekly or sometimes a couple times a week, I like to get that done in advance so I can maximize my training time at the range. I have a lot of magazines loaded that obviously are used for home defense. On any modern firearm, any modern rifle, you're not going to have an issue with the spring weakening. On some of your older rifles, I would not leave magazines loaded indefinitely. But anything modern, you're not going to have a problem. And again, before you go to the range, it's a great idea.
Can you give me a time range on modern versus older?
Yeah, I'd say anything made within the 1980s forward. you're not going to have an issue. Some of your older firearms, some of your antique firearms, some of the weapons that you're not going to use for home defense, I wouldn't load up and leave. But anything 1980 or newer, made for home defense, modern firearm, you're not going to have an issue with the loaded magazine. You shouldn't. If you do, if you notice that the ammo falls out and the spring is weakening, throw the magazine away, buy a new one.
All right. I think that is excellent advice. And thank you, Ron, for the question. All right. So bump stocks. They've been in the news because of the tragic events that took place in Las Vegas. First of all, what is a bump stock?
A bump stock is a plastic stock that's made for the AK or the AR platform that basically has a spring in it. Every time the weapon fires, the weapon recoils into the stock, and then the spring pushes it forward. Now there's an attachment, there's a place to hold your finger. So when the weapon comes forward, it hits your finger, the trigger hits your finger, and then it discharges and comes back again. Then it goes forward, hits your trigger finger, discharges, comes back again, and that happens really fast. That's a way to simulate fully automatic fire. When I heard the weapon fire on the videos, I and several of my readers realized that wasn't clean, fully automatic fire. The cadence was wrong. We knew that was a bump stock or slide stock or similar device. Now that's what they are. They retail anywhere from $150 to, I've seen them up to $300. Now they're going for a whole heck of a lot more. That's what they are. Personally, in my opinion, and I want to say this, in my humble opinion, these things are junk. I wouldn't own one. The whole weapon shakes when you fire it. It's not accurate, nor is it reliable. You know, as I said earlier, I'm not a big proponent of any kind of fully automatic fire, much less coming out of a bump stock, because with the weapon reciprocating back and forth, there's no accuracy. These things, in my opinion, were made for one type of end user. These are the kids that go on YouTube and like to make videos of them shooting a machine gun type gun. I don't like them. I can't think of any tactical purpose that these bump stocks meet. Again, I'm a proponent of precise, single, semi-automatic aim fire. These things are kind of a joke.
Okay, so what do you say when the NRA and Congress is all saying regulate or ban bump stocks?
Well, I think what the NRA did in their decision and to invite the ATF to review them, I think I figured out and done some analysis on it. You got to realize in 2010, the ATF reviewed the bump stock and determined that they did not constitute a machine gun because it technically only fires one round with every press of the trigger. That means it's a semi-auto. So what the NRA is doing, in my opinion, is trying to short-circuit a move by California Senator Dianne Feinstein, who wants to have hearings on the bump stock and turn this into some kind of national referendum on bump stocks and on firearms. And a lot of people suspect that the bump stock are not her sole goal. She wants to go after the crown jewels of the gun community, which would be standard capacity magazines and semi-automatic weapons. And she wants to use her ban the bump stock bill as a template to go after things that really matter, like, again, standard capacity magazines and semi-automatic. So what the NRA has done is they've asked ATF to review the bump stock. And if ATF decides now that it is a machine gun, that would kind of make Senator Feinstein's legislation moot. We wouldn't need a bill to do that. We wouldn't have to have a 2 to 3 week circus on guns and the evils, in finger quotes, of gun ownership. Instead, ATF could issue a rule tomorrow saying that they're banned, or that they would be controlled by the NFA, the National Firearms Act. Now, this doesn't mean that people who really got to have a bump stock would be left out in the cold. If somebody really has to have a bump stock after ATF declares them to be a machine gun, they could go through the same process that we discussed earlier. Go to a gun shop, pay for it, pay the $200 tax stamp, submit a Form 1 to ATF, and wait 6 months to a year for ATF to say, okay, you can have the bump stock. For most people, again, I don't think they're willing to go through that for what is essentially a YouTube toy.
So there are no shooters you think should be using bump stocks?
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, if somebody loves the bump stock and they enjoy it and they've got a deep pocket with plenty of money, go to the range and tear it up. I know when I see somebody bringing out a bump stock at a range, they usually seem to be in their early 20s, and I'm heading the other way. I don't want to be near them. If they want to use a bump stock, just because I don't like it and I don't see a tactical purpose to it, I'm not for them being banned or for them being restricted in any way, because who am I or anyone else to say what firearms or what accessories people can have? I said earlier, it's just my opinion, and I really don't like them.
Now, what about when it comes down to, I heard they were originally put in place for quote-unquote handicap users.
I've heard that too. I don't see it, because for a non-handicapped person, hanging on to that damn thing when it's reciprocating and bouncing around in your hands is difficult. If anybody has any kind of arm issues, it's going to be even worse. It's not an easy thing to fire. The thing bounces around a lot, and it's not reliable. If you don't get that trigger control and get the whole thing down pat, it's not a reliable device. If there's handicapped people that use these or that depend on these, I haven't encountered them, but I have heard that too.
Okay, like I said, it was just what I'd heard. Now, these things were approved during the Obama administration.
That's correct.
So, are they just, for lack of a term, to me they sound like a novelty, and they sound like something would be almost impossible to maintain a decent sight picture with.
Oh, you're not? Yeah, they are a novelty. That's a great way to describe them. And you're not going to get a sight picture. You're just going to aim it in some general direction. This thing's going to bounce all over. It's not an accurate thing. Unfortunately, the shooter in Vegas, his target was a group of 22,000 people. So he didn't have to be that accurate.
Excuse the term, the bad thing. But there's only one thing that comes to mind when you're shooting into 22,000 people. Fish in barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Or sitting ducks. I'm sorry. There's nothing else. And please stop the hate mail right now. It was a tragedy. There was no...
It was a massacre. It was a terrorist act. People are so focused on, well, was the guy a member of this group or that group? Doesn't matter. Anybody who shoots 500 people is a terrorist.
Exactly. Anybody that kills that many people is just not what I call a responsible gun owner, and B, anyone I want to be anywhere near. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sorry, if I like to pride myself on accuracy.
Yeah, that's why I'm into shooting, to see how accurate. Shooting for me is pushing the envelope. The faster I shoot, the least accurate I shoot. The slower I shoot, the more accurate I shoot, the slower I shoot. I like to push that envelope and see how quickly I can shoot and how accurately I can shoot. All that is negated when you're using a novelty like this.
I mean, I know for me, it's not just how quickly I can shoot. I also do practice magazine changes. I also practice with my holster, because 9.5 times out of 10 when I have my firearm on me, unless I'm at home, you know, the oddity of it'll be just loose running around without a holster is very rare, even at home. Now, I do have a plastic holster I will use to clip onto things or move it around the house when I'm at home that I would never conceal carry with. It is literally something to cover the trigger guard when I'm at home. It has no other form or function, and we discussed this off air. It's basically to make sure that nothing accidentally gets inside that trigger guard.
It's a good plan.
I mean, it was a $12 holster, and I'm sorry, I've already got a piece of metal up against my body. I don't want a hard piece of plastic up against my body as well.
Exactly.
Especially, I mean, it's a cute little holster. It's great for putting my firearm on my desk and knowing that that trigger guard, when I reach for the pen that fell next to it, is covered.
And that's what a holster does. It covers the trigger guard, and it keeps the weapon in one place. So you're not searching for it. God forbid you need it.
Exactly. In fact, my firearm is generally Velcroed to my desk if I'm at my desk. Now, there have been occasions where I'll feel the need, they are rare, to carry the firearm to the kitchen, away from my desk. And that's usually really late at night, or when there's been it's very rare that this happens, but one night, and I was home alone, my husband was deployed, and my front door was unlocked and I didn't realize it. And at 3 a.m, that door opened. Now, thankfully, it was just my drunk neighbor having gotten the wrong house. What if it hadn't been?
Yeah, that's the time when you really want that firearm.
And so, there are times, especially when there's a lot going on, or I've heard of problems on base. I'm a wheelchair user. That's something I've publicly said on air multiple times. I'll take that little plastic holster that I don't want to wear normally, and I have a little shopping basket, kind of like the shopping baskets you pick up in the grocery store, except mine's metal, that I use to carry, things around so I can put more things on my lap and they're contained. I'll clip it onto that basket while I'm running around the house, doing laundry, getting myself food from the kitchen, what have you, so that it's with me, but I don't have to wear my shoulder holster like I would if I was going out. But
that's a good plan.
So like I said, there are times I will move it around the house, but would you ever recommend just a firearm without a holster?
No, and you need a safe way to retain that firearm, especially for concealed carry. I've seen a couple guys that'll tuck it in their pants. That's never a good answer. A holster selection is almost as important as firearm selection. You have to have a good holster. A lot of guys I know, including myself, have gone to Kydex holsters inside the waistband or outside the waistband, because unlike leather, they don't deform, they don't crack, they're impervious to the elements, and they hold the handgun securely. I like a good, solid Kydex holster because it's always in the same spot. And that way, when you're drawing and firing, you'll develop muscle memory. You'll always know where that firearm is. It's not going to be too far back or too far forward. A good gun belt and a good Kydex holster is part of carrying concealed. That way you always know where the gun is, and the gun is always secure.
All right. As we are running out of time, why don't you give your top 3 tips for responsible gun ownership and your social media contact information?
My top tip is always continue training, okay? I'm a training junkie. Too many people will buy a $500 handgun or a $1,500 AR, spend $500 for an optic, buy a case of ammo for $300-400, and then balk at attending a $150 training course. Doesn't work like that. Keep training. Know the law in your state. And if you're going to carry concealed. Don't leave, as a good friend of mine always says, don't leave your cave without your club. And you can find everything that we do at thegunwriter.com. That'll have links to all my social media, my Twitter, my Facebook, our YouTube, all that good stuff. Go to thegunwriter.com.
All right, I do have one last question, and we only have a minute or two for this. I have concealed carry insurance. Good idea? Novelty?
Great idea. I can name you 4 or 5 instances where people have gone to jail even though charges were later dropped, and they sat in there on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bond because they couldn't reach their bond. Make sure it's a good, reputable company. We've got a story coming on which ones are and which one aren't. But you can't go wrong with a few of them that are out there. It is a good idea. God forbid you ever need it.
All right. Now, I want to let everybody know this has been a very unique episode of Jesse's POV. We normally don't discuss that much domestic, but I've tripped over Lee's. I actually have been a regular follower of Lee's stuff for a little over a year now. And I tripped over his information online and felt this was an important message to bring out. And while I could have reached out to another host, I wanted to be the first person at klrnradio.com to have him on. Now, I do have to say my social media contact information, and tomorrow night I will be discussing Bo Bergdahl and why I think he's pleading guilty. All right. You can find me on Twitter at Jesse's POV. That's JESSIES POV. You can email me at the station. That's Jesse's POV at klrnradio.com. As I alluded to at the beginning of the show, we are ending the show on taps. The Department of Defense announced the deaths of 4 soldiers who are part of a joint U.S.-Nigerian train, advise, and assist mission. They died October 4th in southwest Niger as a result of hostile fire while on a reconnaissance patrol. All soldiers were assigned to the 3rd Special Forces Group, Airborne, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Staff Sergeant Brian C. Black, 35, Pollup, Washington. Staff Sergeant Jeremiah W. Johnson, 39, Springboro, Ohio. Staff Sergeant Dustin M. Wright, 29, Lyons, Georgia. Sergeant La David T. Johnson, 25, Miami Gardens, Florida.